Hello and welcome to the Friday FIA press conference ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Joining us today from left to right are Gunther Steiner from Haas, Zach Brown from McLaren and Claire Williams from Williams. Gunther, we're going to start with you. That looked like an encouraging session, FP1, with Roman up in 6th place. Does that help you move ahead from the disappointment of Australia and start to put it behind you?
Yeah, absolutely. It will help. It keeps the morale up with the guys, from the disappointment we had in Australia. But then again, FP1s doesn't mean a lot, but it's better to be there than be last. So it helps the guys to keep going, and I hope we do the same in FP2, FP3, and in qualifying. And then hopefully in the race, we have a flawless race. And
just how did you pick up the guys after Australia?
I think we just regrouped and said these things can happen, they shouldn't happen. We all know you don't have to beat anybody up. They all feel bad about it. Nobody does this on intention. It was a series of things which went wrong, and they just happened in one race and when we were in a good position. But again, you always have to take out the positives. We learn. It seems like we've got a good car. We need to keep on pushing, and we will be fine the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Claire, moving on to you. Melbourne was quite a difficult weekend for Williams, certainly in the race.
Greater inroads into the performance delta to the front runners. However, that didn't transpire in Melbourne. But I'm not necessarily convinced Melbourne was particularly representative. I hope it wasn't. We know that there are kind of 3 key areas of weakness that we need to focus on, which we're doing now. We certainly believe that we've got more performance to extract from the car, and that's what the team are working on at the moment.
Yeah, how do you move forward from here to improve the car in those areas?
Well, as I said, we know the areas, the 3 key areas of weakness, and we just have to focus on those. The team need to do a good job trackside to make sure that our race ops are where they need to be. The drivers need to ensure that they're doing what they need to do from the start of the weekend, and then we need to make sure that we're improving the performance of the car race to race. And I think probably it's the car that's our greatest weakness at the moment. So everybody at Grove is galvanised to make sure that we bring the upgrades that we need to bring, and we keep working on it. And it's just to keep our heads down and not to get too stressed out by, I think, the first result in Melbourne. I think that's really important. This is a long season, and we need to look forward rather than back.
Thank you very much. And Zach, coming to you, it's a home race of sorts for McLaren here, and you had a strong result in the first race weekend. But was the pace where you expected to be at the start of this season?
Our pace was thereabouts. It was a good first race for us. Good weekend. Drivers did an exceptional job. Our pit stops were good. So yeah, we're in the rebuilding process. It's a long season, but that was a good start to the year for us.
And yesterday, Fernando Alonso sat there and said that the next 2 months are crucial for McLaren. Is that a sentiment that you share?
I think the next 2 months are crucial for every Formula One team with the pace of development. No one's sitting still. So yeah, this race is important. The following race is important. Every race is important. But we need to build on Australia, find some more speed, make sure we continue with the reliable and good teamwork, and I think we'll have a good season.
Thank you very much. We'll now open it up to questions from the floor, so please remember to give your name and publication.
Kate Walker, New York Times. I've got a question for all 3 of you. This week we saw the results of the gender pay gap figures published. I know, Gunther, your team was exempt. What sort of efforts are you guys making to rectify any imbalances in pay in your workforce, and to what extent are the existing imbalances down to people in different genders being in differing roles rather than a deliberate effort to underpay women?
Claire, would you like to start with that one?
I can get on my soapbox now. Gender equality at Williams, and I'm talking on behalf of our team, is obviously an issue that we've been looking at and addressing for a number of years now. It's hugely important as part of a wider societal conversation that we're having. And it's really important that we tackle and we address these issues. I do think that the report that came out this week is misleading. I think the criteria by which we have to report has been particularly misleading. You look at the tables of figure of teams that have had to report, and Williams is pretty far down the bottom, but they're looking at the mean and the median. And actually the most important thing when you're looking at gender pay is that women are paid the same amount as their male counterparts for doing the same roles, and that's the most important thing. And at Williams, we tackled that issue a while ago, I think probably 12, 18 months ago. So we know, and I can sit here with total transparency, saying that all women at Williams are paid for doing the identical roles that men are paid. And I think that's the most important issue that we have to address. I think that these reports that have come out this week can be extremely misleading because they're comparing situations where actually there are far fewer women in our roles, in our teams, because this is a very, very male-dominated sport and always has been. However, we've done a huge amount of work to tackle that over the past 12 months, and we continue to do so. I think at Williams, we probably do more work than most of the teams in the paddock, and I'm really proud to say that, either through the initiatives that we've set up over the past 2 years to address the situation, or through the work that we do with external parties such as F1 in schools and Dare to be Different. And we will keep plugging this conversation and keep doing this work to ensure that we have more females coming into our team and into motorsport as a whole. It's so important when we're looking at a shortage of engineers coming up. We have to be talking to all students, male or female, in secondary and tertiary education if we're to make sure that at the end of the day that this sport survives. But it also is really important to say that we recruit on merit. Sport has to be done on a meritocracy. It's not just a box-ticking exercise for us to make sure that we have more women in. It's to make sure that we have quality people coming into our racing teams to work.
Zach, would you like to comment on the gender pay gap at McLaren?
Well, I echo Claire's comments. I think she laid that out very well. What I would say is it's a very important issue for McLaren. It's something that we speak about frequently. It's something that we're doing something about. So we recognize its importance, and there's definitely room for improvement.
Thank you. And Gunther, Haas was exempt, I think, from giving
Yeah, but I can still comment, but after Claire, what she said, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was so good, you know. So, no, even if you're exempt, we are equal. It's the job position. We don't look at gender. You know, it's very transparent. We are very new, so we never had any history there. It already, when we started, it needed to be equal anyway. So we don't even. There is the position, and that is the pay. There is whoever it is, whatever it is, that is what gets paid. So we are very fair on that one, and I don't see any. Even if we don't have to report, we have no issues with it, and we just keep it fair.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Hi, Dan Knudsen, Auto Action and Speed Sport. For all three of you, please, Liberty presented its broad outline for the future. It's going to require cooperation from the teams. You've all observed different now than it has been in the last 30 or 40 years.
Zach, why don't you start with that one?
Well, I can't really speak to the last 30 or 40 years because I haven't been around that long. But I have watched it. Yeah, I look like it. Thanks. You know, I think we all recognize that the sport starts with the fan, and that's what Liberty is focused on, is putting on a better show for the fan. And if the fan wins, I think we all win. The sponsors win, the media wins, television ratings win, and I think we all recognize that the sport is not where it needs to be today, and so it's in our collective interests to improve the show. That means we're all going to have to make varying degrees of compromises, but I think we'll ultimately get there at the end, and excited about the future of Formula One.
Claire, your thoughts on today's meeting?
I was extremely positive about today's meeting, I have to say. I think we've all hoped for change under our new management, and I think today they presented change. You know, for a team like ours, based on what they presented, it was an extremely good day for us. I came back thinking, let's crack open some champagne, because from our perspective, you know, if we can get these new regulations through, and if Liberty or FOM, do everything that they say they're going to do, that they presented this morning, then from our perspective, I know that Williams' future is safe. Not to say that we were on the brink or anywhere close, but you know, today's sport, the way it is structured, And with the financial disparity between teams, then the likelihood of Williams' survival into the medium and long term was looking pretty bleak. So everything that they presented, from revenue redistribution to cost caps, is absolutely everything that we want to see from 2021 and beyond. So I'm personally delighted with the proposals that they laid down. I know that in the past you can have these conversations and they come out and not necessarily anything is done about it, but I'm not sure that these discussions are negotiable. That's not the message I got anyway.
And Gunther, you have experience, but what about the new team perspective?
I think I hear what Claire and Zach said. We're looking all positive after our meeting, but to answer Dan's question, it's like I think the difference is than it was before. There's a different owner of the sport in place, so they will do things different. We knew what was before. There was always the same tactics. I think with the new owner, that is what we have got the chance to make it happen different this time. That's my opinion about it, to answer Dan's question straight, But I think it was good today. The presentation went well. I mean, for sure, everybody goes away and comes back with questions. But I think, as Claire and Zach said, we are at the point that we need to change something to attract people, to attract new fans, to do what we need to do to make the sport the leading sport in the world.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Jerome Pugmire, Associated Press. Just to follow up on that, is there anything that, for all three of you, that you had any reservations about regarding the proposals? Any particular point?
Zach, why don't we start with you on that one?
I think we're going to avoid getting into specifics of what was discussed this morning. That was what was agreed amongst the teams and with Chase and Ross. But as Claire and Gunther have said, I would say overall the impression is very positive, and think the direction in which they're taking is the right direction. There's obviously a lot of details, questions, but we'll do that behind closed doors.
Gunther, anything to add?
No, nice try to get more information. But no, nothing more to add. I think the detailed discussions are behind closed doors. We all agreed on that one, and so we should keep it like in any other business. And hopefully we bring back a better sport, which is better for all of us.
And Claire, you're very happy, but I assume you're going to say the same.
Same, thank you.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines and racefans.net. I'm sorry to continue along the same sort of line, but referring to this morning's meeting, is it not the presentation was more a Liberty wish list rather than proposals for the future, given the fact that they aren't actually the regulatory body? So, do you actually see this as a blueprint for the future or a discussion point?
Claire, if we start with you, you were very effusive about how happy you were coming out of there.
I believe it was a proposal rather than a wish list. It was presented as such, and I think that everyone felt that it was a blueprint for the future. There are obviously elements in that proposal which are under FOM's control and others which fall under the FIA's control, but I believe that FOM and FIA are working together. And as I've always said, if we're going to protect the future of this sport, then we need to work collaboratively, all three stakeholders.
Zach, did you see it as a fair proposal?
Yep, I was in the same meeting.
And Gunther?
Yeah, same meeting, but there is something between a blueprint and a wish list, which is called a proposal. And that, whatever, a proposal, and that's what it was. It will not be, it's not a blueprint, this we have to do, or it's just like, oh, let's try to do this. So it's something in between, but it's a good starting point, a very good one, actually.
Thank you. Next question.
John McAvoy, Daily Mail, to Zach. As your chairman of McLaren and non-executive chairman of Motorsport Network, do you think it's right that one of your drivers advertises a link to the magazine and the website?
Yeah, it was a free offering. I think some other drivers are going to be doing it. It's a free opportunity for consumers. And hopefully more drivers will help share accordingly.
I think a second one, Stoffler.
Scott Mitchell from Autosport. Just a quick one back on the topic of the meeting this morning. One of the things that was pointed out was a reiteration of the need for a cost cap. So how much do you think is a sensible target for that, and how do you think it would be employed?
If we start with Zach for that one.
I think that falls into the realm of items that we're not going to discuss. I think there's a lot of detail of what goes into a cost cap and what doesn't. I think at the end of the day, we're trying to get the sporting field leveled. So wherever we land on cost cap should be based around what makes a race car fast on the track, not necessarily some of the other items that go around a Formula One program, marketing, things of that nature. You know, what you see in the paddock, I think that's quite special and unique to Formula One.
Gunther, do you have a figure in mind that would be good?
No, I think as Zach said, that is behind closed doors, and we have to go back to that one because we agreed on it, and it will come out when the deal is done, or maybe it never will. But it needs to be reasonable that we can put a good show on. The technology is still to showcase it, and what we put in and what we take out, we have to still also decide on it. But again, it will be done behind closed doors.
And Claire, if I could ask, if a figure was given, was it one that would actually affect many of the teams at the moment, or was it quite a high ceiling?
I think it's a balanced figure. I think obviously whenever you talk about cost caps, there are going to be winners and losers, aren't there? And it's about compromise at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Question to Gunther, and I won't ask you what you could do with a $150 million cost cap, but you've obviously played the listed parts regulations to the absolute limit, and your performances and commercial performances to date in your last two years prove that it's actually worked for you. Is this how you intend continuing going forward, to actually still continue getting all the listed parts from your favoured team supplier, or do you intend changing that model? And then to the other two, do you believe that this is the way forward for Formula One, to actually basically be a semi-customer team acquiring as many parts as possible?
We are doing it until 2020. We were waiting for this proposal and see where we get with the proposal with Liberty Media. And then we decide what we are going to do in the future. We haven't taken this decision yet, what we are going to do, but for sure it seems to be working, and I don't see any point to do it different at this moment in time. But it was this morning, the meeting. We still have not a decision what will be done with the sport for 2021, how the new contract looks. And as soon as we have got that one, we will take a decision in the months after that one, how we continue there.
Zach, is this a future direction that you think Formula One should be exploring?
Yeah, I think it. You know, Haas has done an outstanding job. Gene Haas is a very smart businessman. He obviously saw an opportunity to enter the sport, and therefore it doesn't compromise the integrity of the sport, the customization. So I think it is something that they've done a very good job on, and I think we need to look at is you know, some of that or all of that, some of the basis in which we should move forward as we look to drive costs down.
And Claire, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously Haas have done a fantastic job in, you know, they've come into the sport and they're now a hugely competitive team. Obviously, we're not very happy about that. But I think as a model, it's certainly not one that Williams subscribes to. I think everybody knows our philosophy around being a constructor in our sport. For us personally, I wouldn't criticise the way other people want to do it, but we want to retain our constructor position. So it's not something that I would want our team to subscribe to go and buy a whole load of another team's parts. You know, for me, success for us is us building or designing, developing and building our race car ourselves in-house. And success has to come from us doing it our own way. But, you know, as a philosophy for other teams, then, you know, we totally accept that.
Thank you very much.
Who?
Arjan Schouten, AD Sportwereld. Question for Zach. Formula 2 is also starting here this weekend. Last week, Nick de Vries told on Dutch television that you said to him he will definitely get a chance with McLaren in Formula 1 in 2019 when he wins the championship. 2 questions. Is that true? And what means a chance?
That is not an accurate reflection of the conversation, but Nick's best drivers that it can in the car, and no one has any promises from McLaren verbally or contractually as to who's going to be in our car in 2019.
When he says he has it on a piece of paper, that's not...
We won't comment on our contracts, but I can tell you that no one has a guarantee to be in our seat for 2019, regardless of any race results.
Thanks a lot. Next question, gentleman over there.
Louis Dekker, NOS, for all 3 of you. Do you think the Liberty plans secure the future of the 10 teams? For instance, will it keep Ferrari on board?
Gunther, why don't you start with that one?
I cannot speak for Ferrari, so I think we need to ask Dr. Marchionne that one. But I think there is, I have no idea. Mr. Marchionne wasn't present. Nobody committed this morning. Nobody made any comment if they would join or not. So I hope they stay on board, obviously, because Ferrari is a big part of Formula 1. I hope everybody stays on board because I think we have got 10 good teams in the moment, and we should try to work all together to keep it going like this.
Claire, you said you came out very happy from that meeting. Do you think every team came out very happy from it?
No, I'm sure that some people aren't going to be very happy. If you know the intricacies of that meeting, then, as I said earlier, there are always going to be winners and losers in this situation, and sometimes it's about compromise if we're to protect the future health of this sport. Like Gunther says, I can't comment on Ferrari's feelings around the proposals that were laid out. All I can comment on is our teams, and if their proposal is blueprinted, then it does protect the survival of Williams. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters to me. I want our team to be competing and hopefully winning in this sport for the next 2, 3, 4 decades.
Thank you very much. And Zach, anything to add?
No, nothing to add. I think we'll find out soon who's on board and who's not, and hopefully everyone will be on board. That's what's going to be best for the sport, and I believe for all the teams as well.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Julien Villette, Auto question to Claire. Claire, you mentioned key areas of your cars that needs progressing, improving. Could you be more specific? Is it a case of lack of downforce, issues with stability or something else? And regarding the updates, do you think you can have them ready perhaps for Baku, or will you have to wait for the start of the European season? Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really like airing our dirty linen in public at Williams. It's not fair. We know the areas, and that's half the battle, to make sure that you understand the weaker areas of your car. Clearly, everyone always wants more downforce. That's certainly something that we need to work on. But it's across the whole car. But we do believe that there is more performance to find that we didn't manage to get out of it in Melbourne. And so that's the work moving forward. We do have some significant upgrades coming in the next few races, and I'll be really looking forward to seeing how those perform on the track. But as I said earlier, it's a long season, but we have work to do. We're not happy finishing where we finished in Melbourne. We've got to make progress, but unfortunately a lot of the other teams that we thought we'd be fighting with have made greater progress than us, and really we haven't done a good enough job, and we need to really dig deep if we're going to make progress this year. It's going to be a really tough year, which is great for the fans, just not so great for us at Williams.
Thank you. Next question.
Dieter Renken, Racing Lines and racefans.net. Zach, the new regulations post-2020, whatever is in the public domain and other stuff that we've heard, etc., would this incentivize McLaren to actually become a complete manufacturer and provide their own engines? Because obviously the manufacturers will receive bonuses, and with you sourcing an engine from a French production car company doesn't qualify you for that, yet you are also a supercar manufacturer.
It's very early days, hours into understanding directionally which way the sport's going to go with engines. So it is something that we discuss from time to time. But with all we have to accomplish right now, our heads focused a little bit more on tomorrow and Sunday. And as things become clear, then we'll have that discussion.
Louis Dekker, NOS. We heard a lot about 2021. There's a couple of years to go. Isn't it frustrating that nothing much can be done to get more attractive races on short term?
Claire, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, I think we all were probably slightly disappointed by the race in Melbourne, that it didn't bring the track action that we'd like to hope for. I think there are probably circuits coming up where we may see some more interesting racing. Melbourne's not necessarily an easy circuit to overtake on. I hope that improves. I know that the TWG have been talking about means by which to improve the racing through overtaking in the coming weeks. So I think we have to probably wait and see the outcomes that they discuss to hopefully affect change for the next couple of seasons, because probably we can't wait, and our fans certainly can't wait till 2021 for us to improve things.
Gunther, anything you'd like to see changed over the next few years?
I would say, I would go back to the comment, we didn't have a lot of interesting races. We had one, one swallow doesn't make a summer. I think we should wait a little bit longer to see if it is interesting or not. I mean, as Claire said, Australia is not the easiest circuit to overtake anyway. I would wait a few races before we jump to conclusions. But in the meantime, again, as Claire said, the TWG started with some ideas to make it better, the overtaking, and we see what's coming out there. But I stay calm. I don't think we didn't have 3 years of uninteresting races. We had one this year, so give us a little bit of time.
Zach, anything to add?
No, I agree with Gunther. It was one race. I think they're also talking about some maybe modifications to that particular circuit, and then hopefully we can have discussions. We've got an upcoming strategy group meeting where we will discuss things for 2019. So hopefully we don't have to wait till 2021 to impact some change, but let's see what's necessary after a few more races.
Thank you very much. Next question. Thank you very much. A full transcript of this press conference will be available on FIA.com.